All right, and we're live. Welcome, everybody. Glad to introduce you to Michael Goldrich and Elena Gurevich. Elena is a lawyer specialized in emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Michael Goldrich here is my fellow GAIN advisor. We're going to talk a little bit more about AI in hospitality, the legal implications of it, ethical implications. And first of all, I'd like to ask Elena, I guess, an introductory question. Elena, what is AI? What is an AI policy, and what is an AI corporate policy within hospitality, and how does it get created generally?
So, not to kind of get into too deep into the weeds. So every company in general, and it's not even about the hospitality industry, but obviously we're talking about that. Every company that wants to integrate AI into their operations and into their business, they need to have AI policy in place. Essentially, what it is a set of principles and internal policies that encompass all the aspects of the business that will implement AI and data privacy, data protection, intellectual property, liability, all stuff like that. The company needs to be aware of the risks, how company will mitigate the risks if that something happens, if AI goes rogue, so to speak. So all of that juicy stuff needs to be covered in there so people know what to do in all different kinds of circumstances.
That makes sense. And what kind of things do you think can go wrong without such a policy? Have you seen any examples lately in the industry, whether it's in hospitality or a different industry, that it went wrong or that AI went rogue, so to say?
Yeah. I mean, what can't go wrong, right? We have tons of applications coming out every day, chatbots, different AI systems just being implemented left and right without pretty much zero oversight and guardrails in certain aspects. So yeah, I mean, the case of Air Canada not so long ago, right, where the chatbot just came up with some policy, non-existent policy to a customer, a bereaved customer who was trying to get home to a family member's funeral, if I'm not mistaken. So the customer obviously relied on that chatbot's information, which was in fact just a hallucination and made up. And the company tried to kind of distance themselves. And Air Canada was like, "It's not us, it's the chatbot. We are not to blame." Blah blah blah. Obviously, it didn't work in court, and the judge was very clear on that. So Air Canada, in fact, was liable. Again, coming back to AI policy topic that we briefly covered, companies need to think that through all the chain of liability, right? Who is liable when you're implementing that type of technology, be it the chatbot or AI recommender systems or stuff like that. Yeah, not a
That makes
joke.
Right.
It's not a
So, okay.
joke.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So the kind of on that is so you have policies, but then ownership of content. So, say I use this technology to create an article. Can I copyright that article? If I use it to create an image, is that image mine? So, what are the rules around that like, and how does that work? It seems very complicated.
um, and it is complicated. So when it comes to AI generated images currently in the US, they are not copyrightable. So you cannot register an image that was purely generated by, I don't know, Stable Diffusion or DALI 3, whatever you name it. But there has to be some sufficient human input for that to happen. There are a number of, I believe, applications in the US Copyright Office right now, but the jury is out, because nobody can really tell where's this line of sufficient human input into the artwork. Because so currently, if you are generating something, AI generated images are not copyrightable. So pretty much whatever you're coming up with using DALI 3, for example, anyone can use it. So if you're using it for marketing, just be aware that somebody else can use the same image that you came up with using this technology. for their marketing purposes, and you won't really be able to kind of stop them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Same goes for the articles, I would say, except for, again, you need to ask yourself, what are you going to do with that material? How important that is to your organization. If you're doing it again for marketing purposes, that I think it's a little different than versus you implementing it into your legal operations and legal documentation and stuff like that. So you kind of have to think that through as well. If it's for marketing, it's just one small article, AI generated. You still have to make sure there are no hallucinations, there are real facts in there, just basic kind of stuff. But tomorrow is going to be some different article and some different image. So if it's marketing, we're talking about pretty much you can, I believe you can use that. Just don't claim it's yours or you have rights to it.
Right, that makes sense. And Michael, you talk a lot about guests, I guess, personalization, journeys that are personalized on hotels' websites, on any hospitality brand, so to say. There's a lot of people that have concerns how that information is being used by AI. From your experience, what are some of the examples how you can use AI to personalize guest experiences or guest journeys on websites for hotels?
Well, there are different points of the journey, right? There's the inspiration, which is the trip planning piece, and you can use the AI to kind of say, I'm going to Ithaca, New York. Give me an itinerary of 3 different days. So that's sort of the sort of like, what would the experience be like? And then it can kind of go down to more like the specific messaging. So you're going to be here in June. Here are the type of things that you can experience. So, I mean, I think you can, the technology can be used a number of different ways. But my question here is, when you're doing this from a legal perspective, like, I know there are different types of chat bots, right? There's the free one from OpenAI 3.5, then there's the paid one, ChatGPT 4, and then there's like this Teams, and then there's the enterprise. If I'm creating these campaigns and I want to put my Google Analytics in there and do a full analysis, but which one is safe to use, which one's private, and which one could potentially go out to the public?
So it's going to depend obviously on your use case, but if you want to go with the chatbot for your organization, I would go with trusted and known sources, I would say, because there are a lot of applications and free chatbot applications out there. You can just implement those. But again, who's gonna oversee that? We're going to the liability question of that as well. If it's OpenAI API you're using, you at least can down the road look at some responsibility on there, and if things go south. But again, it's going to depend on case by case basis, right? Depending on what you've been doing and how you were fine tuning your chatbot. If you did with your information, if you were fine tuning and feeding it the information and the data from your organization, it's going to be a little different. So it all comes down to the use and to pretty much the safeguards in place, because you need to make sure the third party that you're using, the third party that provides the chatbot, they have those safeguards in place. If not, you need to, again, be sure that you really want to implement that technology for your business.
So, just to follow up on that, like I've heard the concept of a moat around your technology won't get out. So to your point, like the Teams one, which you have to pay a little bit more, like for ChatGPT, is that one sort of protected? They say it's private, but do we know if it's truly private?
That's the thing, right? You can't really claim everything is 100% protected and data won't get out or nothing's gonna come of that, right? But as with everything that concerns data protection, you can't really be sure that your data is protected 100% of the time. There were cases where employees were feeding the chatbot private company information, right? That the chatbot essentially regurgitated and it came out. And the employees, a lot of companies are banning their employees to use these chatbots. And we're talking about like huge companies, big tech companies as well, not in the US, but around the world. So again, you need to think as far as how much trust you can put in that third party using that AI chatbot, because obviously there's an option of you to training your own LLM and your own chatbot, coming up with all of that by yourself. But as a small organization, for example, right, nobody has that type of resources, so you have to rely essentially on these companies. And again, you just need to do your homework, I would say. So you need to be sure they are in compliance, at least with the current standards, which are not many, I would say. But at least you need to be sure that you are at least kind of made sure that your clients will be protected and the data of your clients and your company's data will be protected. But in order for that to happen, you need to look into that organization, their terms and conditions, their usage policy, and stuff like that.
Yeah. And for the legal counsels that are watching that potentially are in hospitality, what are some of the legal documents within the company that need to be reviewed when adopting AI or when creating an AI policy, corporate policy?
Well, like I already said, terms and conditions, right? Terms of use. Obviously, if you're starting to integrate AI into your business, those will need to be updated and covered. Different types of employment agreements, even, right? If you're integrating AI into your HR operations. For example, in New York, there's this new law that just came out last summer. Not new, but still recently. So it's only working in New York. It's applicable in New York. It's local law 144, which involves automatic employment decision tools, right? If a company is using AI in their HR practices, hiring people, filtering through the resumes and stuff like that, they need to disclose that and need to make annual audits. They need to comply with certain set of regulations. There are some loopholes around that as well, but still, you need to work on your documentation as far as that. How are you integrating AI and how are you using AI? You need to make disclosures. People need to know that they are talking to a chatbot. They are using this sort of technology. Those images that are in your marketing campaign, for example, they're AI generated, right? We've heard a lot of, at least I've seen a lot of news lately, a lot of companies out there, for example, food services, right? They're using AI generated images in their marketing campaigns. Sometimes it's food that does not exist in the real world, so to speak, right? So the expectation of the customer with this beautiful, as we know, the AI generated images are very, very smooth, very flawless. So expectation versus reality, right? The people need to know that they are reading AI generated stuff. You need to be transparent about that. Again, intellectual property ownership, who owns the rights to AI generated images, licensing, data protection, data privacy, if you are compliant with the current data protection laws, right? If you're serving customers within the EU or you are in the EU, obviously you need to comply with the GDPR. And here in the US, we don't have federal data privacy law, but we have this patchwork of regulation, the CCPA, for example, HIPAA, right? If you're talking about health information, medical information, COPPA, if you're talking about kids, privacy, and as well as various state data privacy laws. So it's just a bunch of stuff you need to be aware of and a bunch of stuff that really overlaps sometimes. So yeah, you need to pretty much overhaul your legal documentation. And the fun part is it never ends because this technology, as we all know, just it updates every day, right? Every day there's something new regulations, new technology emerging on a weekly basis now. So you need to pretty much stay on with the times, as well as just update your policy and all the documentation and all the paperwork that your company is dealing with. So
So,
fun
so I got
times.
so I got a question. So, Elena, you're talking about a lot of very interesting things, a lot of sort of like a lot of work that continues over time. So, Vince, how do the three of us work together on stuff like this? Like we have a lot of, apart from the lawyers that you just talked about, we have a lot of a lot of hotels, a lot of hotel management companies, a lot of brands. So, there's, from what Elena said, it's very complicated. So how do we work together on this?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that we have, that we found this. I guess the three musketeers in the hospitality AI, right? Where you, Michael, you focus more on personalization, revenue generating AI tools within the hospitality industry, where Elena really works on the legality, on corporate policy, ethical contributions that or implications that AI has within the hospitality industry, for the hotel brands, for restaurant companies. Whereas I focus more on the operational tools, right, that all these large companies can focus on to do more with what they currently have, or even do more with less, right? Because we've as we all are quite right, Michael and myself, we're quite, I guess, experienced in the hospitality industry, right? We know what is going on. There are labor shortages. There's an energy crisis. There's inflation. So we need ways to be more efficient, more intelligent, more smarter. And I think with the three areas that we focus on together, we cover a great deal of it, I think. And how we work together, to be more specific, I think it's important to say that we do the assessments, right, where we go into a group. We understand their challenges. We interview employees, our team members. We go through certain contracts. And go through certain contracts that we just talked about, and create recommendations from our proprietary research and from the current trends that are happening in AI and hospitality, and the current legislation, which would apply to the local properties. We develop a strategy on AI for those hotel groups. And feel free to ask any questions for anyone that's watching in the comments on LinkedIn.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, Vincent, you, as far as I know, you just recently got back from, or you still, I'm not aware, from Morocco, right? You were attending a very, very big conference.
Still Morocco.
So, any takeaways? What's the kind of, Morocco is, for everybody's tuning in, at least to me, it's pretty far away. I mean, what's happening? What's the state of kind of mind over there?
Although far away from us here in New York, but Vincent lives in Spain, so it's next door.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about an hour flight. Yeah, we are here at a conference actually talking about AI, what the implication is for the attendees here in their current jobs. So we have a lot of buyers, we have a lot of suppliers that are interested in AI. What we come
is there like
here,
a common theme of like concerns or some? Is there like a general thread of kind of
a lot of the questions that the attendees have are about ethical implications, about legal implications, and also really about the company information that they don't want to share, which is a totally legitimate concern, right? And for specific, luckily in the hospitality industry, you don't only rely on the industry agnostic tools such as ChatGPT. There's a lot of tools out there, enterprise grade tools that keep your information using artificial intelligence with the right contracts, with the right boundaries, so to say, that can really apply to your specific operations as a hotel group, right? You don't only have to rely on ChatGPT. So that's definitely something that's interesting here, that a lot of attendees have interest in, is keeping their information within their companies, and building up the entire corporate AI policy around it. Yeah. You just came back from California, Michael Goldrich, right?
I did, Vincent. I did. And,
Yeah.
it's different questions, but it's sort of like a lot of financial information. Like I was dealing with investors and people that want to really leverage this technology to do forecasting based off their own sort of hotel data. But there's a lot of it. So then, and it comes from a lot of different sources. So for them, it's a matter of how safe is it to put it into these systems? And then the question is, how accurate is it truly going to be? Everyone hears about the hallucinations. We can do RAG or whatever. But Elena, back to you, since this is all about AI legal concerns, you have financial information. When is it safe to leverage these technologies? When is it not safe? I know you talked about the APIs, but how would you address that? Or how would you answer some of the investors that they really want to do their data crunching, but is it safe?
I would say, when is it ever safe, right? We're talking about technology that just keeps developing and evolving every day without essentially, again, any type of just regulation or guardrails. I'm not talking about the EU AI Act that just been passed. That's a different topic. But overall, countries around the globe there's this AI race that's been going on for quite some time, right? Everybody's trying to come up with their policy. Everybody's trying to stay on top of things and be relevant. Obviously, AI is a very, very it's a great tool for both for good and for bad that can be leveraged either way. But to any company out there that's planning on integrating AI, I would say just think of really hard of what's the main goal you're trying to achieve with that, and then think, is there any other way of achieving that goal apart from AI? Because there's this huge FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, that your competitors are jumping on that train and they'll just squeeze you out of business. But sometimes companies do not really calculate right, and they end up just losing money, in fact, on implementing that technology. So there's this serious risk of underestimating as an organization, your strength, I would say, right? If you're capable of even doing that and on what scale. But again, it's going to depend on the use case. It's going to depend on what exactly are you trying to accomplish with AI, integrating that into your operations. So, but again, it's never safe. Back to your question. It's never safe. You just need, but it doesn't mean you have to stay on the sidelines and wait until it's safe. It might never be safe. Hallucinations will be out there no matter what we do, no matter how many fine tunings you have or how many new updates are released. So just sitting there and waiting until it's safe is not an option. You need to, if you really need to, you need to jump on that train and just try your best to comply, to mitigate the risks, to try to work out all the possible scenarios of things that might go wrong, and just try to be try to foresee everything that might go south and just try to mitigate that, and hoping that you did everything the right way, considering, again, there's the regulation that we have currently, it's not really telling us much. So
Right.
the more court cases are coming up, the more court decisions we gonna get, then we'll know which way is which. As of today, I mean, whoever's telling you they got things figured out, they don't.
All right.
So just try your best and stay compliant with the current, at least the current regulation, and current standards, even, because we have ISO, IEC, AI standards recently that just came out. This is a great resource. NIST AI risk management framework, OECD. There are a ton of current standards right now. Yes, they're voluntary, but again, that's a standard. And if you are an organization and if you are a company that wants to be in this game for a long time, right? You need to build trust. That's just as simple as that. Trust with your customers. Everything is built on trust. So that's the only reason they're gonna come back to you. And trust is built when you're open with them, when you're transparent about using the technology, how we're using that, what do we need from you, how we're gonna be using your data, is it secure, are we doing everything in our power to kind of minimize the data that we want from you, right? What are the consequences? You can delete it at any time, and what can you do with it? The scope of that, the scope of the data, and whatever we're doing with this. So tons of questions to be answered, really. But again, if you're serious about that, you just need to go forward. But certainly not, don't wait until it's safe, I would say.
Yeah, and Michael, how has what do you think has the train departed, right? As Elena said, has the train departed of AI in hospitality, or are we still at the very, very, very early stages of AI? Is this something that we're talking about, in 5 years, or it's happening now?
Well, I mean, there are lots of different forms of AI. So I think technically we're talking about generative AI, but machine learning is already out there. I mean, there's a lot of predictive personalization, and there are a lot of companies leveraging that effectively. Generative AI is really a lot of what Elena's been talking about in terms of risk. And here's the thing is, like, I've come across a lot of companies, or the lawyers or the IT department say, no, don't use it. But then you have individuals that are using it in the company on the outside because it's so effective and drives so much productivity and they get so much done quicker. So it's, I equate it to running a race. If you imagine all the hotels you're at a start line, the gun has already been shot and people already started running. Some hotels are still at the starting line, others are still running. And then you have your team, maybe legal, maybe IT, maybe someone else holding you back at the starting line. But then once you're ready to start going, you're already behind. Even if you start to go, like right now, I'm not saying that people are so far ahead, but people are experimenting and learning. This is the year of piloting. This is the year of experimenting. This is the year of learning how to do it, because Sam Altman just said GPT-5 is coming out, and they say it's going to be leapfrog what GPT-4 can do. So there's going to be a lot of interesting new technology coming out around the summertime or fall. So you got to get in, you got to develop that in-house expertise. You got to learn how to start to leverage this technology, because things are going to be changing, and you're not doing a service to your company or your associates by saying no. One of the lines of one of the talks I used to do is AI delay is organizational decay. And I really believe that. So that was my few thoughts there.
Yeah, I think that's I agree. And I think something that our colleague Michael Cohen always says is that with AI in hospitality, you can get the first class ticket, you can get the second class ticket, or you can hold on the last wagon of the train, trying to keep up, right, and having a lot of effort and difficulties. So great insights. This is, I guess, the last moment. Some people can ask questions if they have in the comments on LinkedIn. So feel free to ask now. Elena, anything to close our session off?
Just pretty much what I already said, but to our train analogy, right? I don't even think class matters. What class you're sitting in, first class, second class, whatever, economy class. But if you're on this train, for good, for better, for worse, just hold on to that, because a lot of interesting stops are coming. So you have to stay on that train no matter what. Just be aware that this train might take you very, very different road that you expected as an organization. So you need to be prepared for that as well. Again, talking about compliance and regulation, because not all organizations are capable financially even to comply with all the regulations that are coming, and they will come.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody watching.
Thank
Michael
you.
and Elena can be reached, I guess, best through LinkedIn, right? I guess that's the best medium. Hope to see you guys soon, and have a great day.
Thank you.